guys. How's everybody doing tonight? We're going to let a few more people come in because there were several people that wanted to be here for the live. And we have Brianna back again.
Hi, everybody.
Which is wonderful to continue her journey to get justice for the boy. Let's see who's in here. Hi, Aggie. Hi, Rob. Hi, Squishy. Stevie. Hi, Maddie. I saw Francis earlier. Thanks, guys. This is super important. I know Brianna appreciates your support.
Oh, I do, definitely. Thank you.
So we'll go into the backstory really quick because some people don't know.
Okay.
There might be some people that are new, watch it later. So take us back to the day you lost your son.
Okay. So the morning, I lost him around 9 a.m. I dropped him off.
And what was the date?
I'm sorry.
What was the date?
The date, it was April 2nd.
Okay.
So I dropped him off at 9 a.m. He was fine. He had bruises on his body from, previous abuse. And other than that, he was fine. He was perfectly healthy. He was the same little boy he usually was. And then, around 3:30, I get a phone call from his father saying that he was taking Corey to the hospital and he needed his insurance card, and then hung up on me. And then, I sent him the insurance card, a picture of the insurance card. And, afterwards I was texting, what hospital you're at? I'm coming. I called him quite a few times. No answer. So after that, I called the police and filed a missing, person report, because all I know is that he said he was taking him to the hospital. Something was wrong. And he wasn't answering me. And I wanted to make sure he was at the hospital and, it was being taken care of. So then, the police couldn't find him. And then eventually around, I would say 5:30, the cops knocked on my door and gave me the news that Corey had passed. And I mean, I was so confused. I told them, wrong house. This isn't, you're wrong. And, I told him, like, I was just with him not too long ago, this morning, and he was perfectly fine. I don't think you have the right person. And, it was confirmed. So.
Did you ever think it was kind of odd that he was more concerned about getting stuck with a hospital bill than just getting his son medical treatment ASAP?
I mean, absolutely. And now that I think back to it, it's why did you need the insurance card? It was an emergency. You know, that shouldn't have been what you called me to tell me. You should have called me and told me what hospital he was at, where you were going, not what's his insurance card.
Yeah, what a dumbass. There's no cash register at the ER.
Right.
Especially for a child.
We could have gotten it taken care of at a later time, you know, a bill. But he was more concerned about that than, you know, telling me where he was going, what hospital, you know.
Now, so, hi, Crime Time. Do you happen to know, a few people have asked, do you happen to know, we don't know his cause of death yet, Crime Time. We're going to get to that here in just a second. Did he tell you any of his symptoms and why he was taking it? Or did he just say, I'm taking it?
No, he told me that he was sleeping all day and that he was throwing up. And, you know, at first I was like, well, he's tired because last night he was at the hospital because I took him for a child abuse exam because he was covered in bruises. So I had him at the hospital until 1:30 in the morning. So the night before he was tired. So I thought, okay, you know, he's tired, but then, you know, him throwing up, it was odd. But that's all he really told me. It was a very quick phone call.
Yeah, that's beyond suspicious to say he's sleepy and throwing up.
Right. And I think Maddie said sounds like head trauma. I actually also was thinking that because when from the hospital report, they said that his one of his pupils were more dilated than the other.
Wow.
So, and that, you know, happens with head trauma, but like I said, there's no cause of death yet.
So Crime Time says covered in bruises. Why? Can you address that without, you know, I guess giving too much information?
Right. Well, I believe I mean, I feel like I have enough proof, but I believe his dad was abusing him for 2 years. For 2 years, anytime he was with his dad, he would have bruises when he came back. And so I mean, that's why he was covering bruises that night. That's what I think.
What did they say at the hospital when they did the body map and they examined him?
Well, they were asking Corey what happened, and you know, at first he didn't want to say anything, but you could tell when they were asking him, he would look around the room, he would like look down and just look at me, and he didn't want to answer them. You know, he was afraid, but you could tell he had something to say. So they kept asking, and you know, as much as they could for a child, they don't want to upset them. And then, you know, eventually he did disclose to them, and basically, I mean, they didn't say much except that he needed to be seen by the doctor that DCP&P has the next day.
Absolutely insane.
I feel like they, you know, the cops should have been there that night. I feel like, you know, CPS should have been there at the hospital sitting right next to me and Corey.
Yeah, the doctor's a mandated reporter.
Right. Yeah,
something had to be done right away.
Right.
And
I mean, his bruises were bad enough for them to feel like he needed x-rays. So it wasn't just like a little bruise on his arm, his leg. He needed x-rays because they thought it was bad enough.
And you have all these photos.
Right.
And you knew what was going on. You could just sense it.
Oh yeah. I mean,
because he had never gotten hurt with you.
No, Corey told me what was going on, and I would tell them what Corey told me, and still nothing. I mean, well, I don't know what more they wanted from me. They had the proof. They had, you know, these bruises that a kid shouldn't be getting. I mean, that part doesn't make sense. I mean, this whole thing doesn't make sense to me. It's not just that.
Yeah, I would think it would have been a lot swifter too. So
Yeah.
but you got a really important phone call this week. So can you tell us what you could tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the medical examiner called me, and I've been asking for updates, so that's why they called me, and they told me that the chief medical examiner reviewed the case or the medical reports and sent it back to them. Well, sent it back to the pathologist, and they were running final tests, and then they were gonna call the prosecutor, speak to them, give them the results, and it was going to be in the prosecutor's hands from there.
That's huge news, my friend.
Absolutely. I am so happy to hear that, because I was afraid it was going to go on for a year, maybe even more. So to know that
you missed that, they have a cause of death. They just have not let Bree know. And if it was natural causes, and I'm speculating here, okay, if it was natural causes, I think that everything would have been put to rest that day. They would have let the prosecutor know, this is what we found. They would have called you and said, sorry for your loss. This is what we found out. He was born with, a flap in his heart you wouldn't have known about. I mean, something, he was playing too hard. I don't know. They didn't do that, and they would. So it's obviously going somewhere.
No, I really truly believe that too. I feel like they're taking the last steps to I don't know, I guess to finish the case and do what they have to do.
Yeah, I'm just glad that they reached out to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we had just done a live, and then they reach out with the cause of death. Not saying this show had anything to do with it, God knows. But
right.
Yeah,
no. Absolutely. It's good news. I mean, it's not good news, but right now to just know what happened to Corey is important to me.
Because when you dropped him off that morning, was he sleepy? Did he complain of a stomach ache?
Nothing. No, he was his normal self. He really was. I mean, I would have never thought in a few hours he wouldn't have been there anymore. There's no indication. So, I firmly believe something happened to him that his father did between when I dropped him off and before he took him to the hospital. And that's my belief. It really is. Right. And I'll stick by that.
Now, from the last live, and we're going to get back to the medical examiner. So from the last live, we had a few ornery people in the comment section on YouTube. To be expected. It's okay. We don't need them. But now there is one lady, and I think she was confused. I think she was saying that I changed my stance on parental alienation, and that what I said was Corey saying he didn't want to see his father should have been enough. What I was saying is, parental alienation, in my opinion, should be a crime. My opinion is not going to change on that. And when children are 150% against mom or dad, and they're being coached, someone needs to step in and figure out who's doing what. Who's putting this stuff in their heads, This was not the case. So when I said Corey's word saying he didn't want to go should have been enough, okay, combined with the bruises, combined with the fact that his father wasn't in his life till he was 5, and that's when these injuries started happening. That's what I was talking about. I can't see, that we're not even talking about parental alienation here. If it was parental alienation, you wouldn't have let him see him at all.
Right.
you had these thoughts in your head, this could be going on because he wasn't getting hurt before, and you were letting him go in the fear of, from what you were told, if you withhold him from visitation from his father that he just recently met, you could be charged with kidnapping. And what kind of a mother can you be sitting in jail with felony kidnapping?
Right.
So no, this isn't any comparison to any parental alienation case, because the outcome here is a huge failure. He's not on this earth.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Physically anyway. So this wasn't an alienation. Something very bad happened to this child.
Absolutely.
And it happened after his mother dropped him off at 9 a.m. 9 a.m., right? Roughly.
Right.
So there was a couple of other comments that people said, well, maybe it happened like before. Maybe, they're trying to do some speculating. So this is just my opinion, word to the wise. When you get into these Facebook groups and they say justice for, prayers for, support for, 9 times out of 10, it's run by or the family's involved with that group. So that's not the place to be speculating, just for conversation and discussion, because this woman lives nowhere near Jersey.
Right.
So she's trying to have a discussion, and you're living this in real life. There is, what's the name of your group?
Justice for Corey.
Yeah, Justice for Corey.
Mm-hmm.
Maddie, can one of you put the link to her group on here? Yeah, Crime Time. She tried to avoid that, and she was basically, they forced her hand.
And
didn't believe that he actually had the capability to end his life. Not that she wanted anything else to happen. I mean, how confusing was that situation?
Very. I mean, I tried everything I could to stop this. I tried everything, and unfortunately it didn't work, but I really did anything I could to protect Corey.
CPS,
he was
the judge
sick.
Didn't. There was a court order for Bree to return Corey to his father, but it wasn't by choice. Yeah, a court order. Yeah, everyone needs to understand that the court ordered her to return her to the father, even though these allegations were in place. And as we see, he's no longer here. All right, so I see that you have a protest coming up on July 6th. Has that all been planned and come to fruition?
Yeah, for the most part. After the treatment by the judge, I decided, this is where we have to do a protest, because he was too much of a coward to face me. And I think it's ridiculous. He should explain himself. I was in the room next to him and he couldn't face me and explain.
Yeah, and I think a protest, a walk, whatever you want to call it, might get some attention, because you should not have been ordered to return him back to the father.
Right, and I was there for a court date that they set. I got it in the mail, in the beginning of June to come to this court date, and I had no idea what it was for, but I knew it was in front of the same judge that denied my emergency hearing or my emergency order. So I decided I want to go. I want to talk to this judge. I want to see what he has to say. And then as soon as I get there, you know, I showed the person that we have this court date, and they're like, you're not supposed to be here. Like, I don't know about that. It's not supposed to be in person. And then, you know, we go upstairs and the court officers are like, okay. And then someone comes out and tells us once again that we're not supposed to be here. There's no court date. And, you know, then I started getting pissed off. I was like, you guys send this to me. I want to see the judge. I want to talk to him. And they're like, oh, you want to talk to him? Okay, I'm going to go tell him that you want to speak to him. So then the court officer goes back in and comes back out and, you know, told us that he can't speak to you. And, you know, I asked her to ask him what the reason was for denying my emergency order. And she said that it wasn't, DCP&P didn't give them a report. So basically they blamed DCP&P for him denying the order. And then when I call DCP&P, they blame the judge for denying the order. So whose fault is it? They're blaming each other.
Yeah, so everybody's pointing fingers.
Right.
I mean, they could have at least let it sit for a few days until they got it sorted out, as opposed to giving you a court order to return him.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, and in most cases, it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that he wouldn't even, you know, and then I'm sitting there and she's sending messages back and forth between us because he couldn't face us. And I never got sorry for your loss, my condolences, nothing from him. Nothing. And I couldn't believe it that he didn't even, you know, say sorry or anything. It's, you know, it's horrible. And I don't respect him whatsoever. And I don't think he should be a judge. He can't make good decisions. I don't think whoever, you know, the way they run DCP&P, they need to change that. And I'm sick and tired of them not doing anything about the children that are being abused. And then, you know, they bother other people that aren't doing anything wrong.
Yep, Rebecca, you're right. They should have ordered a removal. That doctor's a mandated reporter. He shouldn't have stuck with that court order, or however he worded it. Somebody should have been contacted immediately. They should have got it on record with Child Protective. They should have done their due diligence. Police, you know, there's usually police hanging around the hospital. That wouldn't have been too hard, I wouldn't think.
No.
So when you do your protest, I noticed a few people have reached out to one of your local stations. I believe it's local, WCTI.
I'm not sure if that one is local or not. I didn't look into it too much, but I have been sending the things to my local station, which is News 12 New Jersey, and they haven't gotten back to me about it yet. So
I suggest everybody, you know, in the group or, you know, whatever, you know, let them know about this protest coming up. Do you know how many people are going to be there to support you?
I'm not exactly sure of the number yet. It looks like on Facebook, I would say around 20 people so far.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
And if they know the backstory, and this is what's going on, and you're doing a protest because you reached out to all of these agencies. I mean, how many times, again, just to refresh everybody, do you think you called CPS to complain about unexplained bruises?
Over the last 2 years, I've had to call them at least, I would say 100 times. You know, I've called them every day for a week straight before.
Rebecca, when were DCP&P contacted? The night he was at the hospital? Or I know they were contacted before, but at the night of the hospital, were they contacted or not?
Yeah, I can tell you. So DCP&P, they had an open case already that I called in a week and a half prior. They were investigating this. They wanted me to get a child abuse exam. They told me to go to the hospital. They knew what they talked to the doctors on the phone. And yet they still didn't do anything.
I will never understand why they hesitate on any of these situations.
You know, it honestly seemed like they didn't feel like it. I can tell you right now, they did. I don't think they felt like it. The next day, they had off of work because it was Good Friday. I feel like they didn't feel like doing it. I really do. It was too much work.
You know how many times I've heard about this with CPS, that if it's a holiday weekend, they try to save it for when they come back from the holiday. There was
Right.
another case, and they were coming on a 3-day weekend for 4th of July and basically said they were going to deal with it on Tuesday. Well, what the hell? A lot of things can happen over your 3-day weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, I just don't get it. I feel like you shouldn't be too busy to save a kid's life or to protect a kid. I mean, that's your job. And for you to have to come out for a couple hours to make sure a kid isn't being abused, it shouldn't be asking too much.
Oh, Rob, I agree. And coordinate work with the police, which is a 24-hour agency. Do you know anything about your laws in New Jersey? Because, you know, in the case of Gabriel Fernandez, you know, they actually prosecuted the social workers. They never went to jail or anything like that. It's a long, crazy story. In New Jersey, can that be done, or do you know? Or do they have immunity?
I'm not sure about that, honestly. I never looked into it, but I really do hope so. I hope they can be, because they're at fault. The judge is at fault. And I feel like they should, you know, something should happen.
I mean, at least have somebody that'll take a call after 5 and not worry about their holiday weekend. Wouldn't that be nice?
Right? I agree. I mean, they could care less. They really could. But they send me to the hospital and then, you know, okay, you're on your own now. Make sure you drop him off. Like, I just don't get it.
So again, he said that he was sleepy and throwing up.
Right.
Nauseous. Okay. And he didn't have anything like that.
Absolutely not.
Nope. You said he was healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. He really was.
I agree. She said, I would sue DCPP and the judge county for wrongful death. This was avoidable if they had done their true due diligence. This is unacceptable, and there has to be reform and accountability. What's it going to take for CPS reform? And this is in every state.
I know. I mean, you would think when this happens, it would be a wake-up call. Do better. Do something. It doesn't change. They just, I mean, it really seems like these people don't care. And I don't get, why are you doing this job if you don't care?
No, and to give you a court order and force your hand. I mean, were you starting to feel like you were crazy? Like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Right.
I don't mean like you're actually crazy, but you're like,
I know.
How can this be so difficult?
I don't get
Carrie
it.
Ann, you're right. She said, absolutely disgusting. It's beyond sickening how screwed up our justice system is. They need to hold every single person responsible for Corey's death. They do. And why do children not have rights?
Right.
Where are child's rights?
I don't know.
I mean, parents can't even advocate for their own children.
It's sickening, and I just don't get it. I wish they would explain to me. I know if they do explain it to me, it admits guilt, and of course they don't want to do that. They're not going to do that. But it just doesn't make sense why no one did anything, why no one cared to do anything. And I really do not know how they sleep at night, because they know they did something.
They've reached out to you. I mean, not the judge.
No, the caseworker, the last one that was working on Corey's case, I mean, he was upset on the phone, and he was just saying, I just don't know how this happened. I tried doing it as quick as I could. And I mean, well, that, first of all, that wasn't good enough. And second of all, I don't believe you. I think you're just, guilty. You feel bad, but you weren't doing anything. And if you were, you should have done it that night, not after your holiday weekend.
The holiday weekend thing pisses me off to no end. I mean, come on. That is just, it does make sense though.
Yeah.
But obviously somebody thought something was up. So for those of you that don't know, after Corey was pronounced dead, his mother was told. His father went to Tennessee. Now, what day was it that detectives in New Jersey found him in Tennessee and tried to question him?
That was Easter Sunday.
Yeah, so I mean, that's taxpayers' money, having to drive down to Tennessee to talk to this, what.
Right.
Obviously, somebody didn't believe that he was just sleepy with a stomach ache.
Well, I think they didn't believe that, they didn't understand why he was in Tennessee after his son had just passed. That didn't make sense to anybody. You're supposed to be home with your family. I understand, it was a different Easter, obviously, for all of us, but he's all the way in Tennessee. Your son just passed, and it's Easter Sunday. And from what I know, he doesn't have anyone in Tennessee. Why was he there? It was very odd, and it still is odd. And I think that's what made them go there. And for a parent not to, speak to police after this happened, it's concerning and it's suspicious and it doesn't make sense.
You didn't leave the state, and you were devastated. You still are. Who says I got to get out of town when you got to bury your child?
When he was driving to Tennessee, I was at the, police station speaking to them about what happened until 3 a.m. I wasn't going anywhere else. I wasn't doing anything. He was driving to Tennessee. He should have been in that same police station answering those questions and telling them what had happened.
Absolutely, considering it was on his watch.
Exactly. And I mean, just the fact that the police were called in the first place because it was stated on the medical report that he was a possible crime victim. And him being a child also, made them call the police. And I just don't get why you would run away from that unless you did something wrong. You don't run from the police unless you're guilty of something, unless you did something wrong. That's what I think. That's what I believe.
Well, especially if your child's dead. Your child has passed away. Your child's deceased.
Right.
You would want to be there with your family, making arrangements, obviously grieving. Mm-hmm. But we go to Tennessee?
And like I said, there's nothing I can think of that is in Tennessee that he would go to. It was just a random place that he thought he could get away. And, maybe he thought he wouldn't be found there, but the cops were pinging his phone after this happened. And, luckily they found him. But even then, they really weren't able to question him much because he got a lawyer right away.
Well, and they can't do anything if he's got a lawyer. He's got to speak through his lawyer, and his lawyer's going to be like, "Show me what you got." But
the thing is, no one was even accusing, besides for me. But the detectives weren't accusing him of anything. They just wanted to know what the hell happened, what was going on. He didn't need a lawyer. So for him to get one, it's like, why?
Well, I was looking it up. I thought maybe he ran to Tennessee because they don't extradite, but they do.
So when I spoke to the prosecutor that will be working on the case, he told me that it doesn't matter where he goes. unless he has a shit ton of money, he will be found. So he can run as far as he wants, but if there's charges filed, there he's not going to be gone forever.
Well, yeah, they found him on Easter Sunday, so he's
in Tennessee. So
he's an idiot. He's an idiot.
He is the biggest idiot I've ever come across. And I mean, if you're gonna do that, I mean, you just scream guilty. Like, everything you've done this whole time has screamed guilty, because you are, number one. But wouldn't you try to avoid that? Do something that doesn't make you, but he's an idiot. You're right.
Well, I've got harsher words for that, but I'm trying to be a little more PC, on YouTube.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, of course.
Oh, I got big words for him. Know that cause of death will be out hopefully this week. I wonder if he skips town again. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that too. I wonder if the medical examiner, since you're the mother and you got a phone call, if they did the same courtesy to
him, right?
By the dad, and call him and say, oh, by the way, we have the cause of death and we're going to be giving our findings to the prosecutor. If they gave him the same courtesy, or they only told you. I think that would be very interesting to know.
So in my opinion for that, I don't think they told him. And the reason I think that is because I've been in communication with the detectives, different ones. There's detectives from the special victims unit that I speak to for the child abuse, and the ones from the homicide unit. And they all have told me that they haven't been able to speak a word to him because of his lawyer. So they can't, I don't think they can reach out to him and tell him that without, asking his lawyer or telling his lawyer. So.
Oh, they would have, you're okay. So you're saying they would have to tell the lawyer first. We have a cause of death, so just get ready.
Or like if he's a suspect, which, I believe he is, they probably wouldn't tell him, just for the fact that you're a suspect, no heads up.
If you can't answer this, don't answer it. Did they question you at all? Like anything?
Yeah. When, the night he passed, the cops knocked on my door and told me, and then they sat with me until the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, the detectives, got to my house, which it took a few hours. So I sat home, and I, obviously was not okay. I was mad. I was screaming at the cops, and EMS was here. It was just a mess. But they took me to the police station, and they did question me. They asked me what happened that day, what, history kind of me and his father. And I told them everything. I told him what a piece of crap he is. I told him he's been abusing him for 2 years. I told them everything. And I was like, do you know where his dad is right now? And at this point, I didn't know he was, running away. And I was like, he needs to come here and tell me what the hell happened to Corey. Why is he not coming and telling me? And then, it took me a couple of days to realize that, he wasn't going to.
So they questioned you as to what's going on, not like that they thought you could be like involved or anything. Because obviously, you didn't run to Tennessee, you didn't lawyer up.
Yeah, I've never for a moment thought they, possibly even considered me as, doing something.
Well, you didn't. I mean, you dropped him off.
Absolutely not, yeah.
You were court ordered to.
Mm-hmm.
Hellraiser said, so there is a full police report.
No, I don't think there's a full police report. I think that would be, they're still investigating, so there's no report yet.
Yeah, because did they call the police to the hospital, or do you know?
They called the, I guess the police, and then the prosecutor's office came, after that, quickly after. I don't know if there's a police report for, you know, just the regular, you know, township cops or not, but not 100% sure about that. I honestly kind of doubt it. I feel like that would just be, you know, would have been taken over by the prosecutor's office quickly.
Well, it sounds like it was. I mean,
Right.
it sounds like
yeah.
somebody in that ER didn't believe he came there because he was dehydrated from a stomach virus. I don't know if everybody here knows that his father actually left the hospital with his son there.
Right.
He didn't stay to see if they were going to admit him, what was wrong. He left him there. And is that when he started running to Tennessee, or do you think he was off packing bags and trying to figure out what he was going to do?
You know what? I have been questioning whether he went back to his house. I don't know. For all we know, he went back there and hid something or threw something out. And that's my concern. He had time to, you know, possibly get rid of something before the cops could get there. Now, I know they went there afterwards, but they could have been, you know, an hour late after he left. So I do know that he almost immediately started driving to Tennessee after this happened.
You know, and what I still can't get over the insurance card. You know,
right.
your son is on death's door, whether he realized that or not, and
No,
you're stuck with the bill. What a narcissist!
He should have known he was. I mean, from the hospital report, if you didn't know that he was, you know, close to death, then there's something wrong with you. He knew, and I just don't get it. I don't.
Well, Maddie's asking it, Hellraiser's asking it, and I'm wondering myself, because every state's different, but you can't leave minor children by themselves in the hospital. Not that any normal person would.
Especially not when they're dying.
No. And he just took off?
I mean, that could be another reason they, you know, called the police. I mean, I feel like everything that happened just was red flag for them, you know?
And what could even be the excuse for that unless they're admitting you yourself because you had a damn heart attack because you're so upset about your child? You'll just leave?
Yeah. No. I mean, I wish he would have just told me what hospital he was at. He obviously, he didn't want me there. I think because I would have called I don't think he knew they were going to call the police, you know, as quickly as they did. I don't think he thought Corey was going to pass as quickly as he did. And, you know, if he allowed me to go, you know, if he told me what hospital he was at, I would have been right there. And, you know, who knows, he didn't, you know, really know, like, if there was a new bruise on him, or, you know, Corey was able to say something and tell me what happened, or he was just being spiteful. I don't know. And his house.
I don't know how much information the police have given you along the way, but do you have any idea if they searched the dad's home?
Oh, yeah, they did. They searched it after they got called, but he left the hospital before the cops got there to even, you know what the situation was about. So they did go over his home, and they did it for about a week or two. And he didn't go back there. So but like I said, I don't know if there was any evidence that he could have gotten rid of there before they got there.
That's what I'm worried about too. But the thing is Corey's going to tell his own story through the medical examiner.
Right.
Corey didn't do this to himself.
Absolutely not. And it wasn't natural. It was not natural. A 6-year-old doesn't just pass away. You and I have talked about in a
conversation several times. He wasn't born with, he wasn't born with any sort of troubling birth defects. Thank goodness. You know,
No.
all
I
his
mean,
physicals were normal. All of this
and
started when he started having visitation with his biological dad.
and the worst part is he was at the hospital the night before. I mean, why, if there was something wrong with him, why wouldn't they have seen it? You know, this isn't a coincidence. You don't get accused of child abuse and then your son discloses to a doctor that he's being abused by you, and then the next day he passes away from a sudden illness no one knew about for almost 7 years. It's not a coincidence. And
not to even mention, to tell you, he's sleepy and a stomach ache. That sounds like a concussion.
Head trauma. It does. And I guess we'll see what the results are, what his cause of death is, but I know what I really do in my heart know what happened, and I think we all know what happened, and he just has to be stopped. He will never stop. There's been women and children before Corey and myself that he's abused, many actually, and he's going to do it again if he's not stopped.
Rebecca said, if you look at pictures of Corey prior to meeting his dad at 5 years old to current, you would see the injuries. I stopped taking pics because he always had bruises. Or basically posting pics, you're not going to post that because it's just like, this is crazy.
No, what she's saying is we couldn't take a normal picture of Corey without a bruise being visible. I could, like, there was times where he was so bruised up that I couldn't even take him, out in public without long sleeves because he had bruises all over his arms from his dad. And that's horrible for me to have to go through. Like, it's just horrible.
And both you and your mom were pleading with the Child Protection Agency in your state, and they just brushed you off.
Begging them. I begged them for 2 years.
Hey, ask your bartender. I saw one of your lives the other night. I don't know if I replied or not. I don't know if I put anything or in chat, but it was great. Well, I'm just happy that the medical examiner personally reached out to you, said there is a cause of death. Not that that's happy news, because we don't, none of this is happy. None of it.
No, it's a step towards, closure. And after, I deserve that. And I mean, I think the person that did this just needs to be put away, and then I can start, grieving correctly, because I'm fighting so hard for him that it's hard to grieve while doing that.
Do you think it's even hit you yet? Because you've been fighting so hard. You don't think so?
No.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, Bree, you've got to read this.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're amazing, Bree. You really are.
Yeah, I'm doing it for him. So,
I mean, going over the checklist of all the ways you were failed, and especially Corey. I don't know how you keep on.
I know that he needs justice, and he's not gonna get it without me. I mean, I've been bothering these people, the prosecutor's office, the medical. I'm very persistent, and I've let them know that I'm not stopping until this guy's in jail. He needs to be punished for what he's done to my son. And until that happens, I'll be in your ear, and you won't stop hearing from me. Because I know what happened. No one's gonna change my mind. I know what that man is capable of. I know what he's done to Corey, and it's not a coincidence that it happened right when my son disclosed to a doctor. Finally, it's not a coincidence.
Ask your bartender said a true mama bear. Yep, you are.
Thank you.
So I've just put this comment up here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you would know anything about any more footage. Just to go back over for people that weren't in the live before, about the actual security footage from the apartment complex.
Okay, so the security footage I was talking about was in the gym, like the community gym at the apartment complex. This was caught on tape, I guess, 3 weeks before, or 2 or 3 weeks before Corey passed. It was, on the security footage, but I'm not sure about the day it happened or anything. I know that they told me they were going to look into, any cameras, and there were neighbors that had I don't know what that doorbell camera is called. Does anyone? I don't.
Is it that ring thing? That ring camera?
Yeah, the ring. They said they were looking into the the camera on the rings or whatever. So it's possible they have more footage, but they're not. They didn't tell me they did. And of the security footage of Dad bringing him into the emergency room, I haven't been told about anything having to do with that, but I'm sure they looked into it.
Oh, they've got that. They've got what happened, because he had to tell the doctor something.
Oh yeah.
I wonder how many times his stories changed from talking to the nurse to talking to the doctor to, and also, just to recap, he drove him there himself. Of course, after asking you for the insurance card, because I'll be damned, he's going to get stuck with the bill. And he
Right.
drove him down there himself. He didn't even call an ambulance.
No, because my theory is when you dial 911, the cops come too, not just the ambulance. And he was avoiding that.
Are you prepared either way to be failed again?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm, expecting the worst, hoping for the best. It would not surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. But I didn't stop fighting when he was here. I'm not gonna stop fighting even though he's not here. And I know what happened. And no one will change my mind.
That was a question from Jerry. So.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I need to, begin preparing mentally for it. I agree. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with it, but I'm going to have to. Hopefully it's, what we all believe it is. And, hopefully he's going to jail very soon after that.
I mean, think about it. I mean, and like I said, I'm just speculating. All right. I think when they got the cause of death back, if it was natural causes, it wouldn't have taken, April, May, June, almost July, almost 3 months. Right. And I think they would have told you, this is what we found out. Yes, Maddie. I think they would have said, this is what I don't know if they would have done over the phone. I don't know how they work. If they would, call you down, explain it to you.
I mean,
but
they
not
know.
telling you, just saying we're sending it to the prosecutor. You know, that
Right.
tells me that this wasn't you know, the stomach bug.
Right. The fact that they have the cause of death, they know what it is. They haven't told me yet. I think if it was natural causes, I would have gotten a phone call, or I would have been told to come in already to be told that. The fact that they're not telling me, maybe, you know, they're doing what they have to do, and then they're going to call me after. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear something pretty soon. But, you know, we have the 4th of July coming up. So I don't know. I mean, another 3-day weekend. You've been haunted by 2 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do they know that you have a Facebook group and everything like that? Has anyone told you to stay off of social media or anything like that?
No, they haven't said anything about my group. They didn't tell me to stay off of it, not to put, you know, certain things on it. And you know, some things I won't put, but you know, for the most part, I put everything. You know, I don't feel, unless it's like going to hinder the investigation, I don't feel like there's any reason, you know, not to share it.
Ask your
And
bartender. I mean, in a natural cause situation, they have that wrapped up real quick.
before they even have a funeral, usually people that would be done. They would know a cause of death before someone's buried. Usually, that's from what I know.
And when was he buried? When was your son buried?
I think I'd have to go back. Maybe April 8th. I think his funeral is April 8th.
So it was still some time.
He wasn't released to the funeral home for a week.
Oh.
Which I think that's kind of that is a long time.
Yeah, it was 4/8.
Yeah, April 8th.
Oh, Christy. I'm sorry, Christy. Christy said her husband passed of natural causes. It took 6 to 8 weeks for the full report to be available. I'm sorry, Christy.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you for the information.
Right.
Okay, Meow has a question. So, if they were waiting on toxicology results, is it poisoning they are thinking then? Fatal head injuries can be discovered very quickly. And that's true. I would think, you know, a CAT scan, I mean, MRI, anything could have been done real fast.
Yeah. My mind's been bouncing back between, you know, I've speculated a ton over the last 3 months, and I can't help it, obviously. But, you know, what I keep thinking, between poisoning and head trauma. And, you know, when the first day, you know, when it happened, I remember I really, like, it's all blurry and, you know, in my head. But when you know, they came and told me at my house that Corey passed away, I recall at some point in that night hearing a cop. I don't know if I asked him what happened or how he passed, but I remember a cop saying something about poisoning. And I remember that because you know, I called my sister to tell her that, you know, this had happened. And I told her that, you know, his father poisoned him. Like, that's how I told her. And that didn't just come in my head from nowhere. You know, like, someone said that somewhere, and it's like they're doing all this toxicology. You know, it's, I don't know. I really don't.
Ask your bartender, me too. But we knew my mother was, we knew she had renal cell carcinoma. You know, she didn't, you know, that's, so you're exactly right. I mean, they'll give you a primary cause. They didn't give her a primary cause or anything.
No.
So let me ask you this. Do you plan, let's say the prosecutor goes through the file and says, time to press charges, you know, time to make an arrest. you know, the whole 9 yards. Do you plan to be at the trial?
Oh, absolutely.
I knew it.
I will.
You're awesome. I knew it. Well, some
I will
people are like,
be.
I can't handle it. You know, I've got my
Oh
answer.
no, I will be Corey's voice, and I will, be speaking for him that whole time. And if it comes to it, and I get to make, a victim impact statement, I basically already started writing it in my head. Honestly, I really have. I don't know how that sounds, but I'm anticipating him going to jail, and I'm anticipating on telling him, you know, speaking to him in front of, I don't know if it's a jury or the judge, but I have a lot to say to him.
Well, I imagine your mom's going to be there.
Oh, capital
Right
letters,
by your
yes,
side.
absolutely.
Because you guys have been fighting and fighting and fighting.
For so long.
And still fighting.
Yep.
So you're going to ask the DA to make a victim's impact statement directly to him?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, again, there's a few new people in here. I can tell by the questions, they're asking. Can you tell us what happened? Carrie Ann. Carrie Ann is my type of chick. I love this. Can I come? I want a piece of him.
Everyone's welcome.
So when you started putting flyers up wanting justice for your son, wanting answers, for the new people in here, can you explain what happened when you were trying to get exposure and like get answers for your son? Because you know that this didn't just happen.
Right. So I printed out a bunch of copies of, a flyer. I, quickly made, Justice for Corey. I had his picture on it. And I think this is like right around the time I made my group. I started hanging them up on poles or stapling them to the poles. And I don't live far from his parents' house. So, I was putting them on these poles, and I guess they happened to see me and happened to see what I was doing and pulled over. And, his mom got out of the car, and I was, my back was turned to her. I was stapling, a piece of paper to the pole, and she came up behind me and just like ripped it from in front of me right off. And, I turned around and I was like, what the hell, and why would you do that? If nothing happened to him, if your son didn't do anything to him, why are you so defensive?
What's blowing my mind, okay, with the system in your area, CPS, etc. Besides the fact that people were trying to stop you from putting up flyers for something that concerns them too, because it's their grandson, it's their family too.
The thing is, if they didn't think that he did anything, okay, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be just talk to me like I'm a person. Don't rip something from my face and yell at me. It's just, they made themselves look guilty too. They are very, very stupid people. They don't think things through, obviously. You make yourself look guilty. Now you're making your son look more guilty. And thank you for doing that, because it proves my point. But they're just, not smart people.
No, and they're scared. They're in panic mode. They don't want those flyers up. They don't want those flyers up.
Yeah, absolutely not.
They're protecting, their own, but they didn't protect Corey, even though he's their grandchild. It's like you and I talked before. I'm not a grandmother yet, but I've seen it in my mother's face. I've seen it in other grandparents' face. It's a totally different look on your face when it's the grandbaby.
Absolutely. You should want to protect them. Your adult child hurts an innocent child. That's your grandson. He's still your blood. He's a child. You should want to protect him more than your own son. That's what I believe.
Yeah,
Your son's
your
an
son's an
adult.
adult. He can fend for himself, but this little boy can't.
Absolutely
He needs a
not.
village. He needs everyone protecting him.
Yeah, he does. And you know, that whole family, they know what happened. They're lying, they're hiding. They know what happened, and I hope they can possibly get charged with, hindering an investigation or something. They all should go, be in jail. They're bad people, and just why wouldn't you defend your, 6-year-old grandson, nephew? You know, I couldn't imagine it. I would hate to be that type of person. I would hate myself if I were them.
Exactly, Maddie. I think anybody with a beating heart feels the same way.
Yeah.
Anybody with, I mean, I love my children. I love my children. But if something like this happened, I'd be like, you're on your own.
Right.
Good luck to you. Hopefully, you had nothing to do with this, but all arrows are pointing at you. Especially if I saw a child with bruises on them repeatedly, I would be like, you have no business having this kid. But who knows? Was he telling them that that he picked him up with the bruises? I'm assuming.
I'm not sure what he would tell them. I personally believe they knew I really do think they knew what he was doing to him. They knew he was sick in the head. He's had past girlfriends tell his parents, "You need to get your son help. He's hurting me. He's abusing me." And there was a girlfriend that even told them to not let him be around Corey alone. And they ignored, like he has a history of doing this. They should have gotten him help. He needs a lot more than therapy, obviously, but he should have been. I don't know. I can't even think of the words, but he shouldn't have been allowed to be around a child alone. Number one, his parents should have known to get him whatever therapy when he was younger, when he was a child. People have told me that he was a bully in second, third grade. He's always been like this. There's always been something wrong with him. He's a bad person. He's evil. So they should have gotten him help when he was still a child. And they allowed this to happen too. I blame them also.
Absolutely. And when you give your victim's impact statement, being optimistic that it gets that far, I hope they sit there and listen. I hope they don't do the coward thing like their son and decide to quietly escort themselves out so they don't have to be confronted.
Yeah, I hope they listen to every word I have to say too, but knowing them, they don't like to do that. They want to get their nonsense in. They want to be able to say something back, and they wouldn't be able to. So they wouldn't be able to take it. It would eat them alive.
I did notice one comment after the last live that seemed like it could possibly be a family member. It was deleted. And I just think it's sick AF that they would jump on a live where you're pouring out your heart and try to slander you.
They know the truth. They know how how much I loved Corey, how much he was my whole world. They don't like that there's their brother, there's the son was capable of doing this. They don't want to believe that. They know it's true, but they want to try to blame other people. They want to try to make other people look bad because they don't want to look bad. You raised a murderer. They don't want that to be known as that. They'll do anything to avoid that.
Well, I mean, since his father he is retired from law enforcement, I mean, I wonder what kind of pull he has to call the medical examiner and find out the cause of death.
Huh. I mean,
I bet he won't, because right now they're shit in their britches. The
Yeah,
fact
I
that
mean,
he didn't come instantly back in April, just preliminary, that this was natural causes. This is an unfortunate accident or anything. And
right.
that's
I
why I'm
mean,
wondering too if they're trying to rule out an accident or something, because the timeline is just really weird. Cricket. Yep.
right.
His father was. Yep.
And also, I'm trying to think of what I was gonna say. Wow. Okay, you can. I can't even. I can't even think of what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Hellraiser said silence does not mean no progress. Oh, and that's
Yeah,
true.
no, that is true.
Are you seeing the comments?
Am I? Yes, I'm. Yeah, I'm reading them. That's why I'm like silent half the time. I'm trying to read them.
No, you're okay. I agree, Jerry. I totally agree. A grieving father, his first move wouldn't be to go visit Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, or wherever he went, and leave his son at the hospital, and not even stick around to find out what was wrong or what happened to him, or is he coming home? Is he being admitted? He took off. How do you explain that?
You don't, and he didn't. He avoided the police, and then when they came and questioned him, he had nothing, to say to them. Why? Oh, if you didn't do, I can keep saying this over and over again. We all know it, but the way he acted, during and after this happened, it's just not something you do as a parent after your child just passed away. And you have no clue what happened to him. And I bothered the prosecutors. I asked them to interview me. That's how much I want to get to the bottom of this. I annoy them enough to interview me. Like, it's so he's avoiding them. Why? You did something wrong.
Because he can't explain himself. He
He's
can't figure
scared.
out a way. He can't figure out a way to make this look like an accident. He did something that went way too far.
Yeah. And him sitting around and like knowing there's not a cause of death yet, but it could be coming soon. I hope it tortures him not knowing what's going to happen next. I really do. I hope he's, paranoid at all times that he's going to get arrested.
Jerry says if the father's actions following Corey's death, starting before he even died, don't spell out suspect to the ones in charge, then this is a scary world we live in. Well, it's a scary world anyway, and I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think everyone's suspicious of him. I really do. I don't think there's one person in this world that actually, doesn't suspect something like that. They can say they don't, but we all do.
I just can't imagine his father being ex-law enforcement giving such sage advice as get out of state now and leave your child in the hospital.
Yeah, I don't know if that was I think that was his own decision. He ran away and then called his daddy. That's what I think. But he already had done it. So what was he going to go back and, I just went to get it like something to drink or something? No, he had to, let him go where he was, Tennessee. And he called a lawyer right away. And, then they found him.
Cricket said, well, it sounds like an arrest is imminent if they said they're already talking to prosecutors.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true.
Oh, Rebecca, he would be blowing up my phone if he wasn't guilty. He's not one to keep his mouth shut. Yeah, what a good point. Your group, these lives, he'd be calling you nonstop saying, take that shit down. everything he can to say, stop now. Nothing happened. I already, whatever. I already told you what happened.
Right.
The leaving him at the hospital, when you told me that, I was just, for one, I'm like, what a stupid move.
When I found that out, I was like, I couldn't believe he would do that. I know how much of a bad person he is, but why? Why would you let our son die by himself?
By himself.
I just don't get it.
I mean,
You
from
gotta
his
be
standpoint, though, what a stupid move. How are you going to explain to a jury? What are you going to say you went to do? Go to Taco Bell? What were you leaving for? Going to get his favorite toy? How you can't explain that.
There's nothing he has no explanation there. And if he does, it's not a good one. And if it was a good one, somehow, and we all know it wouldn't be, he would have told the cops. He wouldn't have left. And to go to Tennessee, to get far away. I mean, if he stayed in New Jersey and just went, 2 hours south or north, okay. But he went to Tennessee. That's far from here, why?
Yeah, it's like he went to New York.
No. I mean, I would say that's about, I don't even know. I would say 10 hours. Don't quote me on that, but it's not close. It might be more.
I mean, I don't know what part of Tennessee he went to. I mean, there's a big difference between Knoxville and Memphis.
Right.
I'm not sure which area he went to.
Oh, it's 13 hours, so, that's not something you do as, you don't run out as your child is in the hospital and run to Tennessee and not call me, not tell me anything that's going on. Like, I just couldn't, it really took me a few days to believe this was actually happening. And it took me even longer, like, a couple weeks to believe he actually wasn't going to call me and explain to me or, tell me anything or talk to me. I mean, I could not believe it.
And you have had no communication with him since?
None at all. Nothing.
What a worm. What a sack.
I mean, it takes an evil person to do this. First of all, Corey, that is horrible in itself. But then, just all the things he did after, not telling me, not letting me go, tell me what hospital was at. I mean, why? Just to torture me a little bit more? I wish I was able to be with Corey at the hospital. I would have done anything to do that. And he took that away from me too.
Spot on, Rebecca. Someone grieving a child who just passed away wouldn't be capable of driving that far. He had the mindset of a criminal running from a crime. Oh,
I could barely stand up, let alone drive. There's no way.
Yeah. But no, she's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, fleeing the state. Why didn't he? It's a wonder he didn't go to Canada. I mean, that's just crazy.
I don't know.
Tennessee to me is so random, but it's like,
yeah,
saying
it is.
He's got the mindset of a criminal, just running. He's just got to get out of there.
Yeah, it's very, we'll never know exactly what he was thinking, why he was doing what he was doing, unless he tells us. And I don't think he'll ever do that. He'll never admit anything.
Oh, ask your bartender. I think they do think it's suspicious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the reason they went out of state to talk to him. I'd like to know how they found him. Or did he
they were pinging his phone. His phone was on, and they were able to actually ping it with, just because. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, they were being serious. I mean, they were looking for him. you know, he was wanted for questioning in a suspicious death, and they couldn't find him.
Absolutely unreal. Unreal. I would love to have seen the look on his smug face when he's so smart. His dad is ex-law enforcement. When the detective showed up to ask him questions. Pinged your phone. We're here.
Right. I would have loved to see that too. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he didn't know it would take this long to get a cause of death. I think, you know, he's probably running around, you know, being cocky about it. You know, he can't. I don't know the words to use. I guess he can't believe he maybe got away with it, because you know, it's been so long. That's probably what he thinks is happening. So if he ever does get arrested, I would love to be there to see what his face looks like.
Oh, I would too.
I'd pay to see that.
Jerry said if they were going to give a final determination of unknown and let this man walk free, then the medical team wouldn't be stupid enough to end their work this early in the game. I don't see them. Yeah, I don't see them just saying unknown. Like, we don't know what happened, especially on a child.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It would have taken a lot longer. They would have kept going for a longer period of time if it was going to come back as unknown. You know, they have to keep running tests. And, you know, 13 weeks, I think, is a long time, but not long enough for it to be unknown.
No. And I'm kind of wondering if they really just found out or if they've known a little while and they just kept going, you know, deeper into it, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They definitely wouldn't, you know, haven't told me any sooner than yesterday. So who knows? They could have known for weeks and building a case, and I don't know about it.
Whatever the outcome, we still know what happened. You're right, Rebecca. Bree's already said you're not going to convince her anything else happened. If they come to Bree and say, yeah, you know, we think it was just, you know, a bad accident, Bree's not going to buy that.
Absolutely not.
And I hope they get those hospital records from the night before. I hope they get the judge's decision. I hope they get the court order saying that you had to give, you know, him to his, whatever you want to call him. I hope they have all of that.
Yeah, no, they, you know, they definitely do. I know they have all the records. I mean, you know, I think they're doing. Hopefully, they did it the right way. They did everything right, and they do know his actual cause of death. Yeah, I mean, like I said, my son didn't die naturally. It's not natural for 6-year-olds to pass away unexpectedly.
God, no.
It's not. And I know my kid. He wasn't sick. His whole life, he was barely sick. He was a healthy kid. And there was no reason. There was no indications that he was sick or he was going to pass away in a few hours. Something happened to him at his dad's house.
I mean, you dropped him off that morning and he was fine.
Yeah. And like I said, when the cops knocked on my door and told me that, I didn't, of course, when, you know, you're told that, you're like, oh, you're wrong. This isn't the person. But I couldn't believe it, because I just saw this healthy 6-year-old boy. And now he's not here. There's no way. You're lying. Just get the hell away from me. I mean, I was mean to them. I told them to get the hell away, leave my house, don't come back. You're lying to, like, I did not believe that that happened so quick.
Yep, right there. Rebecca's saying he left that morning, walking, talking, bright-eyed. They had a conversation. Rebecca, do you want to take the link and come up? Because we have a few new people in here that are trying to fill in the gaps.
I don't know if she knows how to do it on her phone, but if she doesn't, I can get her down here and she can talk for a minute.
Okay, if she wants to.
Let's see. I don't know if she's going to be able to do it.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have her come down.
First rodeo knows that the detective's in charge, so that's true. Rebecca, I know. Yeah, I know. The first time I went on panel with somebody, I had to redo settings for microphone and camera. If you hit the link and you allow the microphone, it should put you on. So I've got a long list, and I'm sure everybody can help me with this, of things he has done that are so suspect. One, calling you for the insurance. Okay, but I'm talking about the day, okay, and going forward, not before. One,
Hello?
calling you for an insurance card. Hello?
Hi, it's Rebecca.
Hi, hon. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Pretty good, my friend. I'm just going through a list of things from the day that your grandson passed. Everyone, Rebecca's on here now, not Bree. Rebecca's his grandmother, maternal grandmother. So, one, calling Bree for an insurance card. Who would even think about that when an emergency's going on?
He would, because he didn't want to pay for anything. It's not the first time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who would even think of that? Not calling an ambulance.
He didn't want the cops to come first, and he knew that's what would happen.
We don't know what happened when he got to the hospital, what he told the doctors, what he told the nurses.
Well, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about that from a hospital report that we had. We obtained from the hospital. He said that he came home like that.
But we have two witnesses that say he didn't.
Right. And if he did it at 9 a.m., why was it 4 o'clock almost when he got to the hospital then?
Exactly. Let's just pretend that
Yep.
Bree took him there in this condition, sleepy and throwing up. Wouldn't he then take him to the hospital?
He would have been on the phone with Bree. He would have been texting me, cursing, yelling, screaming. He would have had the cops involved by 9:05 a.m. if he came home that way.
Exactly. So, okay, what he said there, leaving the hospital. Who leaves your child's side at the hospital? Who? I understand swapping out parents if your child's been admitted and you're like, okay, I got to go shower and, you're here, once you know they're okay. But in the emergency situation, who leaves?
Someone who has something to hide.
And especially to go to another state. I mean,
that's what I said. I mean, I don't even know. Brianna collapsed on the sidewalk in front of the house. I can't imagine a parent being able to drive that far. A real parent doesn't do that. Someone with something to hide does that. Someone in fear of being arrested or questioned does that.
They wouldn't think about being anywhere except with their child.
Right.
So do you guys have any idea when, yeah, I agree. Hellraiser, I agree. Did they give you guys any kind of timeline? If you can tell us, if you can't, no big deal. how long it's going to take for them to get their report to the prosecutor and to get the next stage in motion.
The prosecutor already has the report.
He has it from the medical examiner.
Yes.
But there's no time frame of when you'll get an update, of course.
No.
No, you're right, Maddie. He was never a real parent. Never. He's insane for touching a child, hurting a child, leaving a child at the hospital with no one there to comfort him while he's around doctors and nurses, to not call an ambulance.
Right. You know, as much as I don't like this person, I don't think he meant to kill Corey. I think he was angry. He knew that he was in trouble. He knew that Corey told about the abuse, and I think he just wanted to punish him. And I think he just lost his temper.
And that would make perfect sense. Not to do that. I'm just saying what you're saying. That would add.
You know, like I said, as much as I don't like him, I really don't think he intended to kill him. I think he was just going to give him a beating for telling on him. And I think he just went too far.
Yeah, he likes his own skin too much. I don't think he would do anything to jeopardize his freedom, and it went too far and he had to do something.
Right.
So he takes him to the hospital with some BS story and just leaves him there.
Right. When he realized, you know, that how bad it was, which I don't know how he didn't realize it. I'm sure he had to know based on the description of Corey's appearance upon arrival. He had to know that he was not well. You know, and I think he just, when he realized, you know, he saw the medical staff rushing around and, you know, I think he just panicked and left because he knew what was coming next. And he didn't want to be there to be questioned because he probably thought he was going to get arrested on the spot, which I'm wondering if they did show up when he was still there, if he would have, if that would have changed anything. I just wonder.
I also wonder if he did that on his own accord or if he was given that advice to just get out of there.
I don't know. I have my own theory and my own suspicions.
You know, and I also want to know from when this talking to went down at his house, you know, about Corey saying this is what, you know, my dad, I hate using that word, has been doing to me, to when he actually took him to the hospital, how much time lapsed?
Well, yeah, it's yeah, I really, I mean, I think on the paperwork it said they got to the hospital at 3:50.
Yeah.
And he had passed after 5. So he waited to take them. I mean, we don't even know when whatever occurred, when it occurred throughout the day. I mean, because from what I understand, the grandfather claims he had a text message with a picture of Corey at noon and he looked fine.
Well, then that debunks his theory that when he got him, when he was dropped off that morning, he was already like that.
Right, exactly. And that's what I said, you know, which one is it? He was fine at noon or he wasn't, you know.
Yeah, far from me. There's a cause of death that just hasn't been released yet. And yeah, the dad did leave him at the hospital before he passed away. He got out of there. Yeah, I agree, Carrie Ann. I agree, Maddie. Well, you can only protect people so long.
Well, apparently his father's been getting him out of trouble since the early age of, I guess, around 18.
Well, and I hope that the women that have come forward and talked about abuse that they went through have contacted the prosecutor's office.
Oh, yeah.
They have. Everyone has spoken to the prosecutor.
Okay. Does he have any priors? Anything? Does anybody know?
He does. He does.
Oh, wow. Wow, the hits just keep coming in, kids. I mean, come on.
Like I think I told you the last time we spoke on here, prior to him coming into Corey's life, he had an open case with CPS involving an ex-girlfriend's child. So it's beyond me why he was allowed to have any custody of Corey, but
Yeah, yes,
like
you did. You did tell us that. I'm just going through the questions of people that just got in here to refresh their memory, or to let them know, because there's a few
Right.
people in here that aren't familiar with the case. No, he doesn't
Right.
have any other kids, Cricket.
So the dad was mad at Corey for telling on him about? I don't understand that.
I didn't see that.
Right here.
Oh, so the dad was mad at Corey for telling on him is probably what
Oh,
they meant to write.
yeah, definitely.
But even with that, he wasn't worried about losing his visitation with Corey. He was worried about himself getting in trouble.
Oh, yeah, it's always about protecting himself. It was never about Corey.
I don't think it would have bothered him too much to get hauled into family court and say, you know, you've lost visitation or your visitation's only supervised. And with the bruises, I don't understand why his visitation wasn't supervised. If they still had some question of where it came from, why wasn't it supervised?
Exactly.
And it's going to come down to overworked, understaffed. We're all tired of that story. We're tired of it.
Definitely. Okay, I'm going to give Brianna back. So I'll be on the chat if you need to ask me anything or if you'd like to ask me anything else.
Okay, thank you, my friend.
All right. Thank you.
Hellraiser, it's who you know. Oh, I agree. And really, in this case, Hellraiser, I just don't think who he knows is going to get him too far. Everything he did that day and up to that day is so suspicious that I just think that they're just taking their time and building a case. I mean, I would like to know. I mean, out of curiosity, does he have friends? Who does he hang out with? Who's he talking to? Is he on any social media? What's he doing? I know he hasn't lost his real estate license.
No. I mean, I have no idea what he's doing. He's being very quiet. He's, you know, from what I can tell, he's hiding. I couldn't tell you where he was. I don't know if he's in Tennessee. I don't know if he's in New Jersey. I don't know if he's in California. You know, he could be anywhere.
And it's going to be interesting when all this comes out to know where did he run in Tennessee?
Right.
Hellraiser, his father has connections, but that will backfire. You are right. Well, it will, because it's getting him. It's not going to get him anywhere.
For, anybody like to cover up what has happened, to try to protect him from this, I can't believe that anyone would actually do that. I understand his, father is a retired state trooper, but how much pull can you possibly have to cover up a murder of a child?
Right. Now, is it true what I heard? I was reading through all the comments from the last live, and someone said that the prosecutor and the judges are not elected officials, so they're all appointed. They don't run for re-election. People don't vote them in because that person could be misinformed.
Right. I don't know if that's, true or not. I thought they were. It's possible they're not, but I would have to, do more research
Well,
on that.
that could be another troll from the other side, trying to set me straight. Because that was my question, because I was saying, people were kind of getting political in the chat. And what I was saying is, they are elected. Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
Okay. And I do want to answer Jerry's question. So basically, we've never had a relationship. He sexually assaulted me when I was 16 and he was 21, and that's how Corey came about. Besides for that, there was no relationship with him. And I did, when I did go to court with him and everything, I tried to make that known to judges, and they didn't want to hear anything about it. I think it's disturbing that, that the way Corey came about, what that should have a lot to do with who, gets visitation, who doesn't. He's a predator. He's always been. He's a child abuser. He's a woman beater. That's him. That's his character. He's a bad person, and he's always been. So why that wasn't taken into consideration, I don't know.
Good God. They just dismissed that altogether?
Absolutely, yeah, they did. It's all from the beginning. It's been all messed up. Everything, the way this all started was, horrible. But I didn't see that, like, Corey has always been everything to me. I don't care who his dad was. I didn't care how, I conceived him. He was my child, but it's ever since this man came into my life, he has made me miserable and tortured me. More so the last 2 years, but he just ruined my life.
And now your life is getting justice for your son.
Yeah.
He's not here to speak for himself.
Right. And, he needs to be put away. He's dangerous. He shouldn't be in society. He has been able to hurt so many people. It needs to be stopped. Me and Corey aren't the only victims here. It's a lot more people. He's hurt tons of people, and it shouldn't be allowed anymore. He needs to be stopped, or he's going to do it again and again and again until he can't get, away with it.
I'm absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
The CPS angle, for whatever reason, doesn't surprise me anymore. But the fact that it went to higher levels, judges, you saw a doctor personally, You told them this is what he did to you. This is absolutely insane.
Yep. Like I said, he's dangerous. I've told the detectives that they need to do something, and he can't just be walking around like this. He can't, he shouldn't be in society. He needs to be behind bars. That's the best place for him. He is sick in the head. Normal people don't do this. He's sick.
And I agree with Carrie Ann. He should have never been granted shared custody. I mean, just the fact that he's been reported before by another woman for abusing her child.
Right. He shouldn't be allowed around women or children. He shouldn't.
No.
And I don't know his history. I don't know what happened to him as a kid, but he hates women and he hates children. And I don't know why. I don't know what his parents did to him or someone did to him, but he needs to be locked up. He will kill another person or he will abuse another person. I guarantee that if he doesn't get arrested.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the quicker, the better. And when it all comes to fruition, he'll never see a woman again ever in his life. And he'll never see a child ever again in his life.
Thank God.
I did not know that. You had police presence outside of your house for over a week?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, we did. Yep. We had one day and night for a week. They were, parked right in front of our house. The first night it happened, they actually were afraid that Chris was possibly going to come here to my house and kill me, possibly, and then himself. That's what they told me. They were afraid of that. So they, every person that came in and out of my house, because, obviously a lot of people came after they heard what happened. And every single person, they would look in the car and make sure it wasn't him. They were afraid he was going to come do something to one of us. So, why would they think that if he didn't do anything wrong?
Oh, they know. Mm-hmm. And I hope when they get this report, your mom said they have the report. I hope they charge him with murder one. I know there's a penalty in New Jersey. I'm just really hoping it's not something like manslaughter. I mean, I hope it's several charges. I'm just hoping it's nothing that makes it look like, it was an accident.
I agree. I don't want him to be able to ever leave prison. I think he should die there. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I do.
Oh, he absolutely should die for this. Oh, Rebecca. I love Rebecca. I wish he would stop by now. Exodus, when he gets locked up, he won't last long. The inmates will kill him when they hear that he killed a child. And that's true. It's a totally different world in there. Totally different world.
Oh, absolutely.
And they find out that this happened to a little boy. A little boy. There won't be anything he can do. He will save himself. There won't be any flyers for his mom to tear down any longer. He's on his own.
No, mommy and daddy can't protect you in there.
No.
I'm praying for that moment and it happens.
Here's a question if you feel like answering it. It's pretty important. Moving forward, what's your game plan if the next call is we are closing our investigation? There isn't enough evidence that would prove he murdered Corey beyond a reasonable doubt in a courtroom. Do you plan to go higher, Attorney General?
Yeah, no. I'm not going to stop until the day I die. The day before I die, I'll be doing this. I don't care if I'm 80. years old. This man did something to my son, and he will be put away for it, whether I, you know, and if I die, then whoever's still here in my family will keep going. I'm not, that is not true. He did do something. There should be enough evidence. And if they're closing their investigation, I'm going to get it reopened.
Yep, absolutely.
I know what he did.
So on that note, I'm going to start wrapping this up.
Okay.
Any update, we're going to be live talking about Corey, continuing to discuss this case, giving all the exposure we can. So you guys, when you have time, send whatever links you can to, you know, the local news. A lot of people talked about Dr. Phil. People, you know, they mentioned, you know, different names. I've reached out to a few people that said that they kind of want to wait to see what happens. You know, I mean, I get it, but I think we really need to be a little more aggressive. I'm not saying anything violent or anything like that, but he just did way too many things. I mean, just the day of, to not think.
You know, I understand that a lot of it right now for us, we're not detectives. We're not collecting the physical evidence. This is a lot of circumstantial evidence. I understand that. I understand not everyone's going to believe me, but listen, like, everything he's done so far has been suspicious. It's something a murderer would do. It's something a guilty person would do. There's no explaining that away. Why'd you do that if you weren't guilty? So, you know what? It could be circumstantial for now until the detectives get more, and it's, you know, they could have physical for all we know. But I think I have, you know, his actions prove enough for me. And the history of him abusing him, my son disclosing the day before, it's not a coincidence.
No,
he was never sick. He didn't die naturally.
All right. Well, keep us updated. Everyone join the group, sub the page, and we're going to keep pushing forward. Even if we get bad news, we're going to keep pushing forward. We're going to support Bree. We're going to support Rebecca. And I mean, above all, we're going to get justice for Corey. So everyone have a great night. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.